अरिहंत सिद्ध सुर उपाध्याय साधु सर्व अर्थ के प्रकाशी मांगलिक उपकारी है। तिनको स्वरूप जानी रागते भई जो भक्ति काय को नमाए स्तुति को उच्चारी है। धन्य धन्य तुम्ही से काज सब आज भयो कर चोरी बारंबार वंदना हमारी है। मंगल कल्याण सुख ऐसो हम चाहते हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है। हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है। So yesterday the last question that we discussed was why is the unreal conventional viewpoint presented at all? What is the need of this conventional viewpoint when everything uh, truth has been depicted by the real point of view? So why we use conventional viewpoint at all? So that was what we discussed. Three reasons were given: the contemplation of the multifaceted reality of a substance and the resolution of disputes. So I am on page number 5 of the textbook. You are on 8. One minute, not this one. This we have covered. Go. So my page number and your page number are a bit different. You can come to page number 7, I think. Next. Next. This is what we discussed. So the contemplation of the multifaceted reality of a substance and the resolution of disputes cannot be accomplished with just one viewpoint. Therefore, during the contemplation of reality or when encountering disputes or doubts about any subject, the knowledge that arises from considering both viewpoints is deemed comprehensive knowledge. Okay. Hence, the elucidation of convention is necessary. Okay. So with one viewpoint, we cannot have the full picture of the substance. So both viewpoints are necessary, and that is what forms. And that is what, forms the comprehensive knowledge. Okay. So, the second point, for the establishment of path of spiritual liberation, conventional viewpoint is required. And the third was, without conventional viewpoint, in the initial stages, real cannot be understood nor explained. Just as a foreigner cannot be taught without using his language, similarly, without convention, the teachings of real are impossible. Therefore, as a means to explain real, the presentation of the seemingly unreal conventional has been considered. These were the three reasons, and then two more reasons I told you about. From one was based on Sem6 verse number 12, where it says that the person who are in the lower stages, for them conventional viewpoint is necessary for their spiritual upliftment. And another point was, it's there on page number. So mine is 16, your would be something else. Yeah. So Page number, mine is 16. Your will be, I think, 18, maybe 18. Okay, you can just check it out. The question here given is, can both mutually contradictory viewpoints be accepted simultaneously? After this comparison, it will come. So the manner of their, this is. What page number it is? 12. Okay, you are behind me. Okay. Okay, so that was the question. Can both mutually contradictory viewpoints be accepted simultaneously? So there is a catch here. Yeah, it is possible to simultaneously grasp both mutually contradictory viewpoints. However, the manner of their comprehension is distinct. For example, where the Jinnah's teachings emphasize nischay, that is real viewpoint, one should understand it is the actual truth. Conversely, where Vyavhar is emphasized, one should understand that it is not exactly so, but has been presented with a reference to instrumental conditions. Okay. Understanding in this manner constitutes the acceptance of both viewpoints. Okay. So the conventional is also necessary. Without conventional, we cannot explain you the real viewpoint. Now moving on to the next question from where we left off yesterday. Why is conventional viewpoint which explains real deemed unreal? Okay. Yeah, come back. Yes. Next. Yes. Next. Next. Yes. This one. Why is the conventional viewpoint which explains real deemed unreal? Conventional viewpoint is considered unreal because it is not directly useful to achieve our desired purpose. What is the desired purpose? The self-realization, the liberation. The knowledge of external association and their resultant dispositions, which are the subject matter of conventional viewpoint, does not result in liberation. Therefore, since conventional viewpoint does not help achieve the purpose of liberation, it serves no purpose. Being unpurposeful, this viewpoint is considered somewhat unreal, abhutarth. Okay. Then the next question, why is the real viewpoint explained through the unreal conventional viewpoint considered real? Real viewpoint is considered real because it directly leads to the desired outcome. That this is because liberation is attained through the refuge of the pure soul as understood by this viewpoint. Okay, so real point is that much important. Therefore, since real viewpoint directly achieve the purpose of liberation, it is considered real. So real viewpoint is bhutarth, real, and conventional viewpoint is unreal or abhutarth. Secondly, the result of the conventional viewpoint is worldly existence. Okay. Therefore, to attain liberation, the conventional viewpoint is negated. Now, we move on to the relationship between the subject explained and the explainer. Pratipadya, pratipadak sambandh. Pratipadya means the subject explained and the explainer is pratipadak. Okay. The relationship between these two that has come for discussion now. So, for the establishment, pratipadan of the real, for the depiction of the real, for explaining the real, the use of convention is necessary. If one does not employ the convention, the object cannot be understood. Therefore, real is the subject explained, pratipadya, and convention is the explainer. This is the relationship that exists between the two, and that relationship it is called pratipadya pratipadak sambandh. For example, the role of the convention is to explain distinctions and impart knowledge of associations. Okay. It explains distinction even within an indivisible entity and imparts knowledge of associations. Yet, while explaining the distinctions, it still explains the indivisible substance. Okay. While explaining the distinction, it still explains the indivisible substance. And while explaining the association, it still explains the unassociated element, tattva. Therefore, it is called the establishing agent, pratipadya of the real. Okay. Pratipadya of the real. In this manner, the relationship of the subject explained, that is pratipadya, and the explainer, pratipadak, exist in reality and conventional and convention respectively. Okay. So between so nischay is a pratipadya and vyavhar, conventional, is pratipadak. Okay. Now relationship of negated and negator, nishedya and nishedak. Okay. So who is nishedya? So conventional viewpoint is nishedya, that has to be discarded. Why? Because without discarding the conventional viewpoint, you cannot reach the real viewpoint. Okay. So who is nishedak? The real viewpoint, the negator. Okay. The role of real is to negate convention. As we have seen in the example yesterday, that if you want to cross the river, you have to board the boat. And when you reach the other side of the river, then you have to get down. So similarly, Vyavhar takes us up to the real viewpoint. But real viewpoint discards Vyavhar. And that is very real, and that's very spontaneous development. There's nothing wrong in it. That should be the way. Then only we can reach our destination. So now this Nishedya Nishedak Sambandh has been explained. The role of real is to negate convention. Hence, conventional viewpoint is the negated and real viewpoint is the negator. Who is negating? The real viewpoint is negating. So real viewpoint is the negator, and what is being negated? The conventional viewpoint. Just as cloth cannot be cleaned without washing out the soap. So in fact, there are 4 examples given in Nai Chakra book by Dr. Bharilji, Param Bhav Prakashak Nai Chakra. So one example was about the river, crossing of the river. The second is about the soap. Okay. Just as clothes cannot be cleaned without washing out the soap. In the same way, the pure soul, the Suddhatma, that is the subject of real, cannot be realized without negating convention. Okay. If you are struck up with convention, then you will not be able to realize the pure soul. So at times you have to negate the conventional viewpoint and get into the real viewpoint. When through the convention, the complete establishment of the real has been attained. How it has been attained? Through the convention. Okay. Then in order to transcend the conventional viewpoint, it is prohibited, nishedha. For without relinquishing the conventional, the real cannot be realized. That's another problem. Without relinquishing the conventional, the real cannot be realized. Is the significance of the conventional viewpoint contained in this prohibition? Is the significance of the conventional viewpoint contained in this prohibition? What he wants to say? So that should not be the question mark, I think. With just it's a sentence. Okay. Relinquishing the real cannot be realized. Is the significance of the conventional viewpoint contained in this prohibition? I'm not getting. 1 minute. व्यवहार की सार्थकता निषेध में है. The significance of the conventional viewpoint is in negating, in being negated, okay, contained in this prohibition. That is true. Therefore, thus between the conventional and the real point, there exists the relation of negated and negator. So real is always the negator. Although the boat has done this work of bringing from other side of the river to this side, but now if you want to get into the real viewpoint, then you have to leave the boat. Okay, you have to drop the boat, then only you can reach your destination. So there are two kinds of relationship that is existing. One is pratipadya pratipadak and nishedya nishedak between the conventional viewpoint and the real viewpoint. Now, after all this discussion, we move on to the real viewpoint, nischay. There are, I think, how many? Again, 8 definitions? Yeah, 8. As we had in conventional, there were also 8 points. So similarly, the opposite is in real viewpoint. So we will read each one and then I will explain. So who will read? Priyanka, you read.
Yes, Jinendra sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I read from Real Viewpoint.
Yes.
Real Viewpoint. Different scriptures provide various definitions of real viewpoint. Some of them are as follows: that viewpoint which determines the entity or vastu through non-differentiation or abhay, and without figurative usage, anupkar, anupachar, is called the real viewpoint. The true exposition is called the real viewpoint or nischay. The statement that is based on the soul, Atma Asrita, or Swasrita, is called the real viewpoint. That standpoint, whose subject is a non-differentiated doer and deed, karmadi, is the real viewpoint. To describe the mode or bhav of one and the same substance, dravya, exactly as it is the real viewpoint. For example, to call an earthen pot clay is a statement of the real viewpoint. To call the transformation or parinati of a substance dravya as belonging exactly to that very substance is the real viewpoint. The real viewpoint does not mix one's own substance, swadravya, other substance, pardravya, their modes, bhav, or cause and effect, karan, karya, into one another, but expounds them exactly as they are. Nishchayana is based on the real essence,
Hmm.
bhutartha.
So you see
From
all the 8 definitions that we studied in conventional viewpoint, the same 8 points are here in an opposite manner. Okay. So you can just check it out. You will understand that whatever conventional viewpoint has depicted, this is quite opposite to that. Okay. So as for example, in the number 7, does not mix, and there it will be it mixes. Okay. So in each point there will be opposite. What has been said from conventional viewpoint, the real viewpoint is quite opposite of that. Okay. So from these 8 definitions, we can have a good idea of how the real viewpoint operates. Okay. So now we'll move on to the next discussion, the definition and the functions. Continue.
From the aforementioned statements, the following definition can be derived. Definition: that which refutes the unity established by convention in two distinct entities, and which is in an indivisible substance, negates differences and establishes indivisibility, is called the real viewpoint. Functions: the function of real viewpoint is to establish the distinction from other per entities and the unity or indivisibility within one's own self.
Within one's own self. Are you on mute?
No, sir, I'm right here.
Okay, your voice was not coming in between.
Okay, so now can you hear me better?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so sorry, I'll start from definition. From the aforementioned statements, the following definition can be derived. Definition: that which refutes the unity established by convention in two distinct entities, and which, in an indivisible substance, negates differences and establishes indivisibility, is called the real viewpoint. Functions: the function of real viewpoint is to establish the distinction from other per entities and unity or indivisibility within one's own self. It also negates the relation of different doer and deed, thus establishing all the six factors Satkarak of relationships of doer, deed, etc. in one undivided entity.
Hmm.
Sir, continue.
Yeah, these two paragraphs.
Okay. Assertion: the real viewpoint states that whatever mode, bhav, or transformation, pariniti belongs to a substance, it is of that very substance. It describes each substance independently and exactly as it is. The exposition of the real viewpoint is based on the self. Swasvita, truthfulness. Since it is based on the self, the statements of the real viewpoint are true in meaning. Satyartha, concerned with reality, bhutartha. Or, in other words, the subject of the real viewpoint is a non-differentiated and indivisible soul. From the support of the soul, with which is its subject, arises right belief, samyak darshan, and liberation is attained. Therefore, this viewpoint is indeed concerned with reality, that is bhutartha.
Hmm. So again, come back to the starting point. Yeah. So these 8 definitions explains the real viewpoint in totality. There is nothing new that we need to say apart from these 8 points. Okay. So these are very important points. So while you write this CC2, okay, you should mention only 8 from conventional and 8 from this, and then you can straightway prepare the chart and explain everything over there. That would be your CC2. Okay, and today I'll be giving you this homework so you can start doing it, because we have already covered everything through chart, and that chart only that what I want. So all these points, if you refer to the lecture of last 2 weeks, will get it. And this week we are just reading the textbook. So from the textbook, you have to mention this 8 points of conventional viewpoint and 8 points of real viewpoint. Okay. And then you proceed to prepare the chart, and then uh, each viewpoint having its different characteristics, all that you have to mention. Okay. You can either mention within the chart, or you can just prepare chart by naming the only by putting names only, and then you can uh, explain the all the 8 nayas separately. That is also fine. Okay, so take it further below. Yes. So now the definition, the function, whatever four things we discussed, it's all there in the 8 points. So definition, that which refutes the unity established by convention in two distinct entities. Two different entities, conventional what will do? It will combine both and make a statement. Now what is this real viewpoint doing? That which refutes, it refutes the unity established by convention in two distinct entities, and which in an indivisible substance negates differences and establishes indivisibility, is called the real viewpoint. Okay. So Abed. So what conventional viewpoint was doing is it was dividing the whole substance into different subdivisions. And here the real viewpoint, it's establishing the unity, okay, in an indivisible substance, okay, and negates differences and establishes indivisibility, is called the real viewpoint. Quite opposite of conventional viewpoint. Now, what is the function? The function of real viewpoint is to establish the distinction from other, self and non-self. Everything else is non-self and I am the self. Is establish the distinction from other entities, non-self entities, okay? And the unity or indivisibility within one's own self, okay? And the unity or indivisibility within one's own self. It also negates the relation of different doer and deed. Okay. So from real point of view, doer and deed both are indivisible. Okay. So here it says, and it also negates the relation of different doer and deed. Thus establishing all the 6 factors, Shatkarak, of relationship of doer and deed in one undivided entity. Next. Yes. Assertion. The real viewpoint states that whatever mode or transformation or modification belongs to a substance, it is of that very substance. Okay. It describes each substance independently and exactly as it is. The exposition of the real viewpoint is based on the self. Swasrito. Okay. Truthfulness. Since it is based on the self, the statements of the real viewpoint are true in meaning. Okay. True in meaning. Concerned with reality. Okay. Reality is dharma. Then, or in other words, the subject of the real viewpoint is the non-differentiated and indivisible soul. Okay. From the support of the soul, which is its subject, arises the right belief, samyak darshan, and liberation is attained. Therefore, this viewpoint is indeed concerned with reality. Okay, so very nice explanation. Apart from the other 8 points, all these are going to be very useful. Now, there is a distinctions between real viewpoint and conventional viewpoint, and there are many distinctions mentioned over here, maybe 10, 15 distinctions. Just go through this. Okay, the difference between real viewpoint and conventional viewpoint are as outlined below. Okay, so one by one we will discuss the first one. The real viewpoint presents the exposition exactly as it is. There is no exaggeration. Okay, as it is, and that's why it is called real viewpoint. Okay, the conventional viewpoint presents the exposition in a figurative manner. Okay, so in a figurative manner means upcharita. Second, the real viewpoint makes statement based on the self, swasito, This is Parashrita. The conventional viewpoint makes statement based on external factors. The real viewpoint presents an unassociated viewpoint. The real viewpoint presents an unassociated viewpoint. The conventional viewpoint presents an associated viewpoint. Okay. So both are presenting what is desirable for him may not be desirable from other, but still as a mark of respect, as a mark of attachment, these statements are being made, no problem. Fourth one, the real viewpoint is bhutarth, that is real. The conventional viewpoint is abhutarth, unreal. Okay, again opposites. The fifth point, the real viewpoint attributes the modes or transformers of a substance to that very substance because it's a real viewpoint. The conventional viewpoint by reference to instrumental conditions strikes attributes the mode of transformation of one substance to another substance. Next point, sixth. The real viewpoint describes each substance independently. The conventional viewpoint presents its exposition by combining many substances, their modes and cause, effect, concurrence, and the like. So I'll just check it out tomorrow whether he wants any books or what. But this much also is good for him if because the next building is also gone for redevelopment, so there's a lot of disturbance over there. The real viewpoint, seventh point now. The real viewpoint negates distinction within an indivisible entity. Okay. So the job of real viewpoint is to negate the differences. Okay. Establishing its unity. The conventional viewpoint makes distinction within an indivisible entity. Quite opposite. Okay. The real viewpoint refutes the unity established between two distinct entities because it's a real viewpoint. Real viewpoint says that two different entities cannot be one anytime. The conventional viewpoint, for the sake of practical purpose, prayojan, establishes non-differentiation, abhed, between two distinct substances. Number 9, the function of the real viewpoint is to establish non-differentiation, abhed, with the self and the differentiation from the other. The function of the conventional viewpoint is to establish differentiation within the self and unity with others. So quite opposite. Next page, 10th point. Yeah, we continue. The real viewpoint is elucidated or explained, pratipadya. The conventional viewpoint is elucidator, that is pratipadak. 11th point, the real viewpoint is negator. Negator of what? Negator of conventional viewpoint. Where I was on the 10th, the real viewpoint is explained, pratipadya. The conventional viewpoint is pratipadak, okay? The real viewpoint is nisedhar. So I was on 11. The real viewpoint is nisedhar. The conventional viewpoint is what is negated, okay? So there is a quite difference between the two. This you should understand properly so that you can practice the discriminative knowledge going forward. Now 12th point. There is a relationship of elucidated and elucidator between the real viewpoint and conventional viewpoint. There is a relationship of negation and negator between the conventional viewpoint and the real viewpoint. The 13th, To attain the real viewpoint, one must let go of the conventional viewpoints. Without the conventional viewpoint, the real viewpoint cannot be understood. Okay, so that's why conventional viewpoint is also very necessary. Now the 14th. In the primary stage, conventional viewpoint should be adapted to understand the real viewpoint. Without abandoning the conventional viewpoint, the real viewpoint cannot be attained. 13th. 14th.
Actually, it's 15th, I think.
Okay, 15th. Without the real viewpoint, the essence will be lost. Experience of the pure soul. Without the conventional viewpoint, the teachings, tirth, sermons or spiritual guidance will be lost. 16th. In the process of experience, the real viewpoint is primary. In the process of teaching, the conventional viewpoint is primary. During the moment of experience, the reflective thoughts, vikalp, of the real viewpoint are abundant. Okay. But the subject's basis remains. Okay. So during the moment of experience, the reflective thoughts, vikalp of the real viewpoint are abundant. So when you are experiencing, realizing yourself, at that time the thoughts doesn't arise. Okay. During the moment of experience, the real reflective thoughts, vikalp, of the real viewpoint are abundant, but the subject's basis remains. During the moment of experience, the reflective thoughts of the conventional viewpoint and its subject both are abundant. Now the concluding point, last point. The real viewpoint establishes non-differentiated doer and deed relation. Karta karm. Okay. The conventional viewpoint establishes the relationship of doer and deed between separate entities. Okay. So this is the difference between the two. Now, contradictory nature of real and conventional viewpoint.
So one question, sir.
Yeah.
Isn't this the chart itself, sir? What you're asking us to write?
Yeah.
Isn't
So you have to write the chart also, but with every point of chart, means like first one is what we call it as figurative non-existent conventional point of view. Okay. Now under that I explained you 5, 6 points, 7 points, 8 points. That all you should include. Okay. So you have two choices. Either you make a chart and write down there 8, 10 points on each. Otherwise you write it separately and just make the chart to see the names, different names from 1 to 8. I am okay
Thank you,
with
sir.
both. I'm okay with both. You can choose whatever you feel like.
Yeah.
Now we are discussing the contradictory nature of real and conventional viewpoint. So with the differences, we can make out that there is a contradictory between these two viewpoints. Okay, they cannot have the same opinion all the time. There are differences, and how it affects that we are going to see. So contradictory nature of real and conventional. Who will read? Rajeshri ji, you read.
Contradictory nature of real and conventional. From the above, we can see that there are not just differences in the subject of matter and style of assertion between real and conventional, but there are also apparent contradictions. This is because the subject matter that the real viewpoint calls undivided and unified, conventional begins to show distinctions within it. Moreover, the two entities that convention describes as one, according to the real viewpoint, can never be one. For instance, conventional viewpoint states that the soul and the body are one and the same, whereas the real viewpoint asserts that the soul and the body can never be one. In the given examples, The conventional viewpoint established unity with non-self, while the real viewpoint clearly denies this and established distinctions from non-self. Alternatively, the three distinctions of conduct, charitra, faith, darshan, and knowledge, gyan, of the knower are distinguished from the perspective of convention. However, from the perspective of real, there is neither knowledge, nor conduct, nor faith. The knower is one purely knowing entity, Sudh Gyanak. In this example, the conventional viewpoint creates distinctions within the self, whereas the real viewpoint denies these distinctions and establishes unity within the self. In this way, the function of the convention is to establish distinctions with the self and unity with the external, while the function of the real is to establish distinctions with the external and unity within the self. The conventional viewpoint differentiates between the two substances by distinguishing the doer and the deed, the karta and the karma, and explains the relation between them. In contrast, the real viewpoint, while establishing the indivisibility of the six causes, Satkarak, denies the distinction between the doer and the deed. This is the form of their mutual opposition. The apparent contradiction between the assertions of the real viewpoint and conventional viewpoint is subject related. This is because in multifaceted reality, Anekanta Atmak, there exist pairs of mutually contradicted properties, dharma. One property becomes the subject of real, while the other becomes the subject of convention. Therefore, real and convention seems to be mutually contradictory, but in reality, they complement each other.
Stop. So you see the relationship between the real and the conventional. Okay. So both, they have the contradictory, the nature seems to be contradictory, but in reality it is no. In reality, both complement each other, and striking a balance between the two only serves our purpose of being happy. Okay. So we should practice and strike the balance between these two so that our happiness flows always. Okay. So from the above, we can see that there are not just differences in the subject matter and style of assertion between real and conventional, but there are also apparent contradictions. This is because the subject matter that the real viewpoint calls undivided and unified, conventional begins to show distinctions within it, because that is their nature, you know. Moreover, the two entities that convention describes as one, according to the real viewpoint, can never be one. For instance, the conventional viewpoint states that the soul and the body are one and the same, whereas the real viewpoint asserts that the soul and the body can never be one. So this has been taken from verse number 27 of Sem6. In the given examples, the conventional viewpoint establishes unity with non-self, while the real viewpoint clearly denies this, while the real viewpoint clearly denies this and establishes distinction from non-self. Alternatively, the three distinctions of conduct, charitra, faith, and knowledge of the knower are distinguished from the perspective of convention. Okay. So when you divide an indivisible thing, then it becomes a convention. However, from the perspective of real, there is neither knowledge, nor conduct, nor faith. Okay. The knower is one purely knowing entity, Shuddh Gnayak. So this is, I think, verse number 16. But here it is written as 27. I have to check. In this example, the conventional viewpoint creates distinctions within the self, whereas the real viewpoint denies these distinctions and establishes unity within the self. So all these are correct. In this way, the function of convention is to establish distinction within the self and unity with the external, while the function of the real is to establish distinction with the external and unity within the self. So quite opposite, contrasting nature. The conventional viewpoint differentiates between two substances by distinguishing the doer and the deed and explains the relationship between them. In contrast, the real viewpoint, while establishing the indivisibility of the six causes, Sat Karak, denies the distinction between the doer and the deed. This is the form of their mutual opposition. Okay. So each has its own role. Okay. And both complement each other. So although the nature may appear contradictory, but in reality it is not contradictory, but they complement each other. Okay. So this is the form of their mutual opposition. The apparent contradiction between the assertion of the real viewpoint and conventional viewpoint is subject related. This is because in multifaceted reality, anekantatmak, there exist pairs of mutually contradictory properties, dharma. Okay. Tat, atat, ek, anek, nitya, anitya, bhed, abhed, all these are mutually contradictory properties. Okay. One property becomes the subject of nischay, while the other becomes the subject of vyavhar. And applying both, you can have the overall picture of the substance. Therefore, nischay and vyavhar seems to be mutually contradictory, but in reality, they complement each other. So the fact is quite different, okay? Although it may appear contradictory, but in reality, they are not contradictory, but they complement each other. Okay. Now the next question, why is it necessary to state both mutually contradictory viewpoints? So just now we said that the reality has got two opposite pairs of properties. So to describe that, we can use the real viewpoint, and the other we can use the conventional viewpoint, so that the whole substance can be known comprehensively. Next question. Can both mutually contradictory viewpoints be accepted simultaneously? Why not? Because each is being said from a certain perspective. So from that perspective, the statement is correct. Yes, it is possible to simultaneously grasp both mutually contradictory viewpoints. However, the manner of their comprehension is distinct. Okay. For example, where the Jina's teachings emphasize nischay, that is real viewpoint, one should understand this is the actual truth. Conversely, where vyavhar is emphasized, one should understand that it is not exactly so, but has been presented with reference to instrumental conditions, etc. Understanding in this manner constitutes the acceptance of both viewpoints. So unless and until you don't accept both viewpoints, you will not be able to realize the substance. Okay. Are both viewpoints equally worthy of acceptance? That is upade? No. Both viewpoints are not equally acceptable. It is a misconception to equate conventional with real. To prevent considering conventional as acceptable as real, conventional viewpoint has been described as unreal, abhutarth, or not absolutely true, asatyarth. The conventional viewpoint is initially effective in achieving its purpose and useful in understanding the nature of the entity in the lower stages, making it somewhat true and acceptable, beneficial. However, after its purpose is achieved, its utility ceases. Thus, it is also somewhat unreal and not acceptable or discardable. So, both viewpoints are there. From one perspective, it is acceptable. From another perspective, it is not acceptable. Okay, depends on in what context what is being said. The conventional, so the final outcome is somewhat it is acceptable and somewhat discardable. That is the final say. The conventional viewpoint is referred to as unreal, but one should not assume that the aspect of the fact doesn't exist at all. It's not like that. Although it is unreal, but it doesn't mean that it does not exist at all. Convention is also considered somewhat true. Next. The real viewpoint is to be adapted, upadeh, because in the process of direct experience of the self, the real viewpoint predominates. Through reliance on that aspect of the soul, as Nischay depicts, liberation is attained. Therefore, it is said to be concerned with reality, bhutarth, and truth in meaning, satyarth. In brief, that from whose support liberation is possible is concerned with reality, bhutarth, and that from whose support liberation is not possible is unreal. Since the conventional viewpoint is unreal, it is to be abandoned. After conventional viewpoint is abandoned, even the conscious thought vikalp of real viewpoint dissolves. As the application of viewpoints is meant for determining the fundamental elements, tattva nirnay, theoretically, not only during the actual practice of self-realization, during the time of experience, all thoughts related to viewpoints dissolve. Only the experience remains. Okay. So this was all. In this way, we see that as long as thoughts of viewpoints continue, the soul remains object of indirect knowledge and does not become the subject of direct experience, pratyakshanubhuti, because direct experience is beyond all the thoughts or inclination of viewpoints. Okay, so we have one thing to check it out. I'll share the copy again. You can take a printout if you want. For that adhyatam ke nahi, it's going to be help you every now and then. Okay. Here a point requiring special attention is that since in the real viewpoint, only the bias or thoughts, paksh or vikalp, is to be relinquished, but the essence of subject matter must still be retained. Whereas in the conventional viewpoint, not only the thoughts, but also the subject-based meaning is to be relinquished. Therefore, both viewpoints are not equally adaptable. So this is the true nature of each viewpoint described being here. We have to take the decisions that what is worth adapting and what is worth renouncing, and accordingly our future will also be like that. Okay. So now we are coming on to the different names. Okay, different names of each viewpoint. Here it is given. In addition to being called bhutarth nay, nischay nay is also referred to as shuddha nay, pure viewpoint, param shuddha nay, supreme pure viewpoint, and paramatma nay, ultimate viewpoint. Okay, so all these words we can sort out. There is no similarity, but somewhat it is similar. But if you want, we can tomorrow, maybe you can call me personally, somebody, and I can see that if I can put it on ChatGPT and get a better version. So since the pure essence is intrinsic, supreme and represents the ultimate truth. Paramarth, the real viewpoint that focuses on the essence, is also known as Param Shuddha Nyay and Paramarth Nyay. Okay. So now we will go into the chart. Okay. Conventional viewpoint, 4 points will come one by one, and with each explanation, and then the real viewpoint, another 4 divisions and subdivisions, all will be included in that. And then we can take this forward. Okay. So conventional viewpoint, differences and distinctions. So who will read? Darshitji, you read.
Okay, Jai Jinendra. Conventional viewpoint, differences and distinctions. Vyavhar nahi, bhed prabhed. Conventional viewpoint focuses on the specific aspects of substance that have both general and specific aspects. Since there are many types of specific aspects, conventional viewpoints can be of various kinds. However, conventional viewpoint clarifies the nature of substance by establishing distinctions within an indivisible object and unity between two separate substances. Based on this characteristic, it has been classified into 2 types. Non-existent conventional viewpoint, Asadbhut Vyavhar Nahi, and existent conventional viewpoint, Sadbhut Vyavhar Nahi. Both of above are further classified into 2 types each. Figurative, non-existent conventional viewpoint, Upcharit Asadbhut Vyavhar Nahi.
One number.
Sorry?
This is number 1 that we studied from the chart.
The second one is literal non-existent conventional viewpoint, Anupcharit Asadbhut Vyavhar Nahi. The third one is figurative existent conventional viewpoint, Upcharit Sadbhut Vyavhar Nahi. And the fourth one is literal existent conventional viewpoint, Anupcharit Sadbhut Vyavhar Nahi. Thus, the conventional viewpoint is of 4 types. Among these, Upcharit Sadbhut Vyavhar Nahi is also known as Ashuddh, impure, Shadbhut Vyavhar Nahi, and Anupcharit Sadbhut Vyavhar Nahi is referred to as Shuddh, pure Sadbhut Vyavhar Nahi. The 4 types of conventional viewpoints can be understood through the following chart.
So conventional viewpoint has been divided between 2, existence and non-existence. Then again existence divided into 2, and non-existence is again divided into 2. So one is figurative, another is literal, same in the case of non-existent also. Go further.
Carry on reading?
Yes.
Okay. In the aforesaid distinctions, we see that the application of term figurative, upchar, has been applied not only to non-existent conventional viewpoint, Asudbhat Vyavhar Nahi, but also to existent conventional viewpoint, Sadbhut Vyavhar Nahi. On this basis, 2 subdivisions are made. Figurative existent conventional viewpoint, Upcharit Sadbhut Vyavhar Nahi, and literal existent conventional viewpoint, Anupcharit Sadbhut Vyavhar Nahi. Nevertheless, the true application of the term figurative, upchar, is found only in non-existent conventional viewpoint, Asudbhat Vyavhar Nahi, because in a substance the distinctions of attributes etc. are not figurative but real. In place of the literal and figurative divisions of the existent conventional viewpoint, Sadbhut Vyavhar Nahi, the terms pure, Shuddh, and impure, Ashuddh are applied. From these very names, it becomes clear why there is a possible hesitation in calling the existent conventional viewpoint figurative, Upcharit. The existent conventional viewpoint, Sadbhut Vyavhar Nahi, is the originator of distinctions, while the non-existent conventional viewpoint, Asudbhut Vyavhar Nahi, is the originator of figurative usage, Upchar. Since Upcharit Asudbhai Vyavhar Nahi creates further upchars within upchars, in brackets, further applied relations to already applied relations, it is a subdivision of Asudbhut Vyavhar Nahi itself. While in order to differentiate that Asudbhut Vyavhar Nahi from the Upcharit Asudbhut Vyavhar Nahi, which reflects singular Upchar and not further Upchar in Upchar, it is called Anupcharit Asudbhut Vyavhar Nahi. Do you want me to stop, Rajesh, sir?
No, one more paragraph. Okay, you have
Second.
done. No. Okay, fine. So in my, I think one paragraph they have added, which is not showing here. So anyway, I'll do the corrections later on from the book. So what we were discussing here, after the divisions you all understood because we have already done this in details. Then coming to, in place of the literal and figurative divisions of the existent conventional viewpoint, Sadbudh Vyavhar Nahi, the term pure, Shuddh, and impure Ashuddh are applied. From these very names, it becomes clear why there is a possible hesitation in calling the existence conventional viewpoint figurative, upcharit. Okay. The existent conventional viewpoint, Sadbudh Vyavhar Nahi, is the originator of the distinctions, while the non-existent conventional viewpoint is the originator of the figurative usage. Next. Figurative usage. So here, figurative usage. Since Upcharit Asadbhut Vyavhar Nahi, okay? Asadbhut means not in the soul's periphery. So since Upcharit Asadbhut Vyavhar Nahi creates further Upchars, further divisions and subdivisions within Upchars, further applied relations to already applied relations, it is a subdivision of Ashuddh, Ashadbhut Vyavhar itself. While in order to differentiate that Asadbhut Vyavhar Nahi from the Upcharit Asadbhut Vyavhar Nahi, which reflects singular Upchar and not further Upchar in Upchar, it is called Anupcharit Asadbhut Vyavhar Nahi. Now, significance of divisions and subdivisions. Why we are doing divisions and subdivisions? Okay. Who will read? I think who is left? Aditi. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Significance of divisions and subdivisions, Bhed
Yeah.
Prabhed.
Yes. Yeah.
To understand the creation of the universe and the fully autonomous, well-ordered system within it, the division and the subdivisions of conventional viewpoints are both meaningful and necessary. The universe is a collection of infinite and innumerable substances, each of which is an individual unit. Each unit, that is, each substance is complete in itself, sovereign in nature, and is whole, indivisible, and entirely self-sufficient, independent entity. Despite the fact that each substance may have numerous spatial units, it remains indivisible. Similarly, each substance has infinite attributes and their infinite states as well, but these do not divide the substance's indivisibility or its sovereignty, and its completeness remains unaffected. The integrity and the sovereignty of a substance are only affected if another substance encroaches upon its boundaries or interferes with its states. However, this does not happen as each substance is complete, indivisible, and entirely self-sufficient independent entity. Although each substance may have innumerable space points, Pradesh, it is not fragmented by them. In the same way, each substance has infinite potencies, Shakti, and their infinite states, Avastha. Yet on account of these potencies and states, the wholeness of the substance is not broken, nor is its supreme completeness affected. Prabhu Sampannata. For the wholeness and the supreme completeness of a substance are only affected when some other substance enters within its domain or interferes with its states. But this never occurs because, as has been stated above, each substance is in itself complete, indivisible, and entirely independent. Each substance, while maintaining its indivisibility and unity, is, for the sake of understanding and explanation, differentiated based on the attributes and possessor of attributes. Gun, Guni, space point and possessor of space points, Pradesh and Pradesh
One.
Pradesh 1, mode and possessor of modes, Parya 1, and so on. For the purpose of understanding and explaining the attributes, etc., related distinctions made within the limits of a single substance are
Atadbhav.
atadbhav, different but not separate, whereas the dividing line between two substances is atyantabhav, separates them in existence, as herein the pleasure, pain, gain, loss of one substance does not affect the other. However, the pleasure, pain, gain, loss within the confines of the substance, pradesh, attributes, gun, and the modes, paryay, of a single substance are inclusive. This is why the distinctions made within the limits of a substance are not real, but they do exist in a certain sense.
Stop. So we have two words here. One is atadbhav and one is prithakatva. So this has been adapted from Pravachan Sarji Gatha number 106, where they say the relationship between the substance, attributes, and modification in atadbhav, these three entities are different, but the same space points. They are located in the same space point. Okay. So that's why it is called atadbhav. So in atadbhav, the space points are same, but there is a distinction between the substance, attributes, and modification. Okay. But in prithakatva means entirely different. Okay. So the relationship between two substances is that of prithakatva. One does not do anything of the other does not do anything of this substance. Okay. So each substance remains independent. Okay. That was the essence up to this. So two words you should remember. One is atadbhav. Atadbhav means internally they are different, but the space points is the same. Okay. And when we say prithakatva, that means they are entirely different. Their space points are also different. Okay. Hope this is a bit subtle, but you will understand that the relationship that exists between substance, attributes, and modification is which one? Atadbhav or prithakatva? Which one? Atadbhav. Okay. So in atadbhav, the space points are the same. Okay. But in prithakatva, the space points are different. That is the difference. Prithakatva means absolutely different. Okay. Prithakatva means absolutely different and atadbhav means somewhat different. Okay. So this is the basic difference.
So can you repeat it? Because first time you said different space points are the same. Now you said that they are
when we are discussing atadbhav, okay, the relationship of atadbhav, that means the substance, attributes, and modifications are different in nature, but they are in the same space point, atadbhav. But when we say the prithakatva, the space points are different. Okay. So between two substances, there exists a relationship of absolute difference. And within the same space point, there is a relationship called atadbhav, where the nature of each is different, but the space points is the same. Now it is clear? So I'll just ask you a question. I think then you will understand. What is the relationship between the soul and the body? Prithakatva or atadbhav?
It's different.
Yes, prithakatva, entirely different, absolutely different. Okay. What is the relationship between a substance and a modification? Atadbhav. Okay. That means the natures are different, but they are existing in the same space point. The space points are not different. Okay. So this is the difference. Atadbhav and prithakatva. So when we are discussing the difference between two entirely different substances, it will be prithakatva. And when we are discussing internal divisions, okay, within one substance, then the relationship established would be atadbhav. I'll get the exact English words. It is not mentioned here. So here it is written atyanta bhav. Okay. So what I was referring as prithakatva, because this word was used in Pravachansar, prithakatva and atadbhav. So here they have referred is as atyanta bhav. Okay. Separates them in existence. But in atadbhav, it does not separate them in existence. They are in the same space point. That is the difference. Hope you have understood up to this. From here, the function of existent conventional viewpoint that we will continue from tomorrow. Okay, not tomorrow, the next week. So this up to certain sense, you can mark it in your book, in your textbook if you have taken a printout that we have done up to this, and from here onwards, we will continue this reading. Okay. So when there is a difference between two entirely different substances, it is called atyanta bhav. And when there is a distinctions among one substance only between its substance and modification, between its attributes and modification, then it is called atadbhav. That means they exist in the same space point. That's all. So
Could I ask a question?
Yes, yes.
Sorry, you can finish because mine's going back a few pages. That's why.
No problem. Mine is complete.
Okay, so on page number 10, which I have now put on the screen, point number 7, where it says the conventional viewpoint makes distinctions within an indivisible entity. Can we get some sort of an example for this?
Yeah, so you just tell me which example is this one. The conventional viewpoint makes distinction within an indivisible entity. So here the relationship would be atadbhav, because they are in the same space point, because it is an indivisible entity. But still, I am making distinctions between substance and modification, between attributes and modification. Okay. Although the entity is indivisible, but for the explanation, for understanding it better, I am doing the distinctions. So this distinction is of which type? Then it is called atadbhav. And the real viewpoint negates distinction within an indivisible entity, establishing its unity. So this is something different. But this one matches the seventh, the conventional viewpoint. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So when you want to make distinctions within one substance only, then it is called atadbhav. That means they are existing in the same space points. Okay. But the nature of each is different, like substance is different from modification. Modification is different from attribute. So internally, they are different. But when we consider their existence, they are existing in the same space point. And when we make distinctions between two entirely different substances, then it is called atyant abhav, no relationship, absolute non-existence, absolute non-existence. Okay, atyant abhav. And that is what it is called prithakatva. So the space points are also different. Okay, so these two things has to be discussed. You know, if you consider um, in a single indivisible entity, if you consider that their substance and modification are entirely different, just like absolute non-existence, then your understanding would be wrong. Okay, so it is very uh, necessary to understand the differences between the two. What is being referred? Okay, so when internal divisions are there, the space points are same. When the divisions are entirely different, like in the case of absolute non-existence, then it's a different case. Space points are also different. So that much clarity was required, and I hope you have understood. Just go through this once more, and if there is any ambiguity, we will discuss again in the next class, and then only we will proceed.
Okay, I
Okay.
just want to say one thing for the class, that at the end of this book, there is all the definitions are given for the words. So that might help people to understand stuff further.
Glossary, no?
Yes, yes.
So Hindi word along with English word. Okay. So it always helps, you know. Okay. Anything else? So where we left off, Darshitji, I wanted to mark.
It's on page 16 of mine, and it says the function.
No. We have in between we stopped.
I can go down to where it is.
Yeah, you go down.
It's come the exist in a certain sense. 37, it's given. So page 16, second paragraph.
1 minute. Huh? Page 16.
So before the thing gets over, just one page before it gets over, sir.
1 minute. Huh?
I marked it on screen if it helps you.
The
For the
function.
purpose of understanding and
Right.
explaining the attributes.
Yeah. The function.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Do exist in a certain sense. So here we stop. Okay. So I marked it here in my book also. So this is lecture number 20. Okay. So we'll continue from here. Okay. निज निधि निज में बताई, यह अनंत उपकार है उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना सत बार है, उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना सत बार है। 9 times नमो का